Hello, you guys. Let's talk about 8.5, triangles and their areas. Well, the first thing we have to do is make sure we're all talking about the same parts of a triangle. So look at the vocabulary with me. A vertex, it's right here. It would be a corner point, okay? And then the altitude, that's a line segment from the highest point of the triangle to the base. So an altitude would go from the highest point of the triangle and it would drop down and touch the base. Now the base is always the bottom edge of the triangle, and I'll usually highlight that with blue. And then the height, if we're going to use the height, and that's really important to calculate the area, it has to touch the base at a right angle. So notice here, I went from the highest point of the triangle down to the base, and see that little part of a square? That means it touches it at a right angle, at a 90-degree angle, and that's the measurement I want to use when I'm calculating the area. Now the median of a triangle, that line segment touches the base at the midpoint, the middle of the base. So it would go from the top of the triangle down to the base, and what that does is it splits the base into two equal pieces. Okay, and then take a look here. The area of a triangle. The area of a triangle is 1/2 the product of its base and its height. So we would write this in algebra as 1/2 the base times the height. And notice how I made the base blue, and I want you to do that with your colors. And the height is red here. Okay, so take a look at example 1. They want us to find the area and the perimeter of the pennant. Now the pennant is another word for the flag over here. So this triangle right here. Notice how I'm moving the marker. This triangle right here. Okay, to get the area, remember the area is 1/2 times the base times the height. And I want you to notice with your blue, make the base, the 20 centimeters blue, and then the height has to touch it at a right angle, make that red. And that would be 24. So I just plug in the numbers. It's 1/2 times the base, which is 20, times the height, which is 24. Well, remember, half of 20 just makes 10. So 1/2 times 20 is 10, and then bring down the 24. 10 times 24 would be 240. Now, area is always labeled to the second power, all right? So this would be 240 centimeters to the second power. Now, perimeter, remember, perimeter, it goes all the way around the outside edges. So the perimeter means you take the 3 sides of the triangle and you add them together. That would be 20 plus 26 plus 26. So that would give us 66, and perimeter is always to the first power. So this is just 66 centimeters to the first power, but remember the first power is invisible, so it's just 66 centimeters. Okay, take a look at example 2, finding the area of the triangle. So remember, area is 1/2 times the base times the height. So take a look at this triangle, and the triangle is shaded in gray. That's the triangle they want the area of. So I make the bottom edge, the base, right here, the 19 is blue, and the height goes from the tallest point of the triangle down, and it has to touch the base at a right angle. So they had to extend the base to make it touch. So the height is 42 feet. And notice you'll always know the height and the base because you have to look for that right angle symbol. Okay, so I'm just going to plug in the numbers. It means 1/2 times the base, which is 19, times the height, which is 42. Now, it's easier for me to figure out 1/2 of 42 than it is 1/2 of 19 because 42 is an even number. So I just switched the 19 and the 42 around. That's commutative property. So now I say, okay, what's 1/2 of 42? Well, that would be 21, and then I bring down the 19. And when I multiply 21 times 19, I would get 399. Now you have to label things correctly. So remember, this is 399 square feet because area is always units to the second power. Okay, so take a look at example 1. They want us to find area and perimeter of each triangle. Well, let's start off with the area. The area is 1/2 times the base times the height. So with your blue pen, make the base blue, the 12, and with your red pen, make the height, the 5, red. And you'll always know, look for that right angle symbol and you'll know which one is which, okay? And so plug in the numbers. Bring down the 1/2. The base we said is 12, so put the 12 in for the base. And the height is 5, so put a 5 in for the height. And then half of 12, you can do that in your head, is 6, and bring down the 5. So 6 times 5 would give us 30 square inches. So the area is 30 inches to the second power. Remember, area has to have units to the second power. Now for perimeter, we just add all the outside edges. So you just take the 3 sides of the triangle and you add them together. So 13 plus 12 plus 5. And when we added that together, we got 30. So that would be, the perimeter is 30 inches. And remember, perimeter is just plain old units, just inches. Okay, take a look at number 2. The area is 1/2 times the base times the height. So with your blue pen, make the base blue. That's 3.4 yards. And with your red pen, make the height red. That's 1.4 yards. And plug in the numbers. So area equals 1/2 times 3.4 times 1.4. Well, I can do half of 3.4 in my head. That's like half of 34 would be 17. So half of 3.4 is 1.7. And then bring down the 1.4. And when you multiply those, you should get 2.38. And then don't forget to label it yards to the second power. With perimeter, we have to add up all the outside edges. So you add 3 plus 1.6 plus 3.4. Remember, when you're adding decimals, you have to line up those decimal points. And so I would get 8.0. So the perimeter is 8 yards. Take a look at number 3. The area is 1/2 times the base times the height. So make your base blue and your height red. And so that's 1/2 times 28, the base, times 48, the height. And so half of 28 is 14. Bring down the 48, and then you have to do 14 times 48, and that would give you 672 meters to the second power. Don't forget to label. Now perimeter, remember, is add up all the outside edges. So we're going to add 50 plus 50 plus 28. And when we added that, we got 128. So the perimeter is 128 meters.